Hey, so today for Global Community Day, we started off with listening to Mr. Fisher, an ex-Holocaust survivor. It was unbelievable. He gave a really personal side to a story that, we've studied in history class before. We know the numbers, we know what happened, but to really get sort of an inside scoop and an emotional aspect to it was really perspective broadening, and felt really privileged to be there at that moment. And then after that, we had time to reflect on it and talk about sort of a present practical combination with that, how we can help with genocides in Syria and Egypt and stuff, talk about political issues and also the humanitarian aspect to it, which I think was awesome. And I mean, we got to see so many different perspectives just within our grade. And then after that, our activity, which was a lot of fun, was with the disaster relief, the draw buckets. And I know the guy that was running it was really cool. Like he was really passionate about what he did, and he gave us a great way to sort of implement practically what we had just sort of talked about in a present way, which I think was beautifully aligned. And now we just saw a play about the Holocaust at a place that Mr. Fisher was just at, which is just mind-boggling. And I know Mrs. Lee and all the middle school students did an unbelievable job. So far it's just been an amazing experience that I'm glad Episcopal has put together and can hopefully continue in the future.
I don't even know where to start, but as a kid, between the ages of 7 and 10, and somebody could figure out what my age is by now. Any math majors here that could do that? Nobody? Come on. What? 78. Very good. Perfect. That night, my grandfather on a big farm came in with 3-4 of his farm hands, and sure enough, they took care of the German. They never killed anybody because they don't want to make noise. All we did in those days was cut the people's throats. So there's no killing going on at all. I'm trying to be straight with you. No killing, no noise. And sure enough, that evening, my grandfather picked us up, took us away, and took us to his farm, which is about 9-10 kilometers from where we were in this city.
Today we listened to Mr. Bob Fisher tell us about his time in Terrorism. For me, it was very surreal because we've learned about it in history class, but I never actually imagined someone who was actually in the Holocaust materializing before me. It's sort of bizarre because I didn't really picture these being real events, and when Mr. Bob Fisher spoke, it was very easy to put myself in his position, and I felt a lot of empathy for him, and it was sad, but at the same time, it was great to hear from him because it makes you realize that as human beings, we have the ability to overcome a lot of things, and especially if Mr. Bob Fisher overcame everything that he went through, then I believe that myself and my peers have the ability to overcome a lot of the sort of small things that we think are troublesome.
I believe Global Community Day is important because we take a time out to realize it's not just us. We get very insular in our thinking. Today, particularly with the Holocaust focus, what we just heard, I would say that for a lot of us who maybe heard people in the past, we've taken a little bit for granted that they are around, but truthfully, you're going to turn around here in just a few years and there won't be anybody else that could come give one of those talks like you just heard. Something I would like to share on the film if you want to use this. It was actually hearing a Holocaust survivor back in around 1989 when I was in my second year of teaching high school that truly defined and reshaped my whole view of my work as a teacher. I was fairly new at it. I was just past my mid-30s, going into my late 30s, and it was a little short woman who'd been in, I believe, in the Birkenau camp and had the tattoo, and she had spoken to the students at one point in the day, but she had just the faculty for a session after school. And she told the story of her first job out of the camp as a waitress in the British sector of Berlin, and that she was serving tea to a British diplomat, a man who was rather tall, white-haired, sort of classic diplomat figure, and that as she was serving the tea, her hand shook and tea spilled out of the cup into the saucer. And having been in the camps where even a little mistake is a big deal, she was pretty nervous about what was going to happen, and he was very gracious and took the cup and the saucer from her and thanked her, and then asked her the question, what do you hope to do when you get past this phase of just trying to get back on your feet being a waitress? Is what do you really hope you can do? And she said, sir, I hope someday I can be a teacher. And she said that that man looked at her and held up the cup and the saucer with the tea still in the bottom of the saucer and said, being a teacher is like this cup and saucer. And he poured the tea from the saucer back in the cup and said, you must be so full of what you teach that something can spill over the sides, because that's what your students have access to. Well, that blew me away. It blew every teacher in the room away, and I have not been the same about teaching since that day. I have understood what being a teacher is in those terms. So I can tell you that it was a Holocaust survivor who spoke a defining word to me at a critical moment, that it has shaped every day I have that thought. So just to give you an idea how important I think people who've been through this are, that one was a game changer for me. I've heard two other ones since, and one of those is the one I heard today. So it's extremely important. Just that alone qualifies the day, and anything else we do around that becomes an enlargement upon it, if that makes any sense.
Well, basically, from my standpoint, what I think experience again is through a child. I was between 7 and 10 in the concentration camp, about 30 months. And I survived, I think, because I had a sense of humor. I accepted that I'm going to die someday. I just didn't know if it's today or tomorrow. So as far as that goes, there was no fear in my own life, because I accepted that we will never get out of there alive. And I seen people being taken to Auschwitz and Birkenau and so forth, because that's what they did. It just was written in my mind that this is the end where I will probably die, God forbid, but that's the way I took it. And therefore there was no fear, because we expected that.
I think Global Community Day is a pretty cool thing that not a lot of schools get, because a lot of times we end up living in our own little world and we're not really focused on the things around us. And it's easy to get distracted and not focus on more important things around the world and the community we live in. So I think this gives us a chance to do so.
Today I had the opportunity to paint butterflies. These butterflies are going to be hung in the Episcopal Library, and they're kind of a reflection of the play that we saw today. I think the reminder of having these and seeing them every day will be great for me and all of the other students, to remind us of not only the Holocaust survivors, but also, the turmoil going on in Syria. And by seeing that every day, it'll just make us a little more thankful and aware of our, surroundings and global. So.
Now, in terms of what I think in the world, I think we need to be less controversial and concentrate on being good, helping other people, and really mean it.
The United States has consciously taken a role to try and lead the world community, but one of the things that we lack in this leadership is an awareness of the rest of the world and a knowledge of the rest of the world. Americans are very well-intentioned, good-natured people that do genuinely want to help and improve the world situation, but unless you're familiar with the different peoples and cultures and situations that exist in the world, you can't put your best foot forward. My hope would be that global awareness and Global Community Day is not just a one-day event, but something that the students become cognizant of and start to incorporate into all their educational experiences, not just one day a year, but every day they're here at Episcopal. And that's the type of education that helps make the best students and the best global citizens.
We can't go through this again. And my only question was, Where was the power, if you will? Why did America didn't come in for 2 years? And all these questions in my mind. How can we tolerate this kind of thing again? And the reason I do this and go to different schools, churches, Kiwanis clubs and so forth, because I'd like to pass that burden from my shoulders onto you guys who are younger, so that you ensure this never happens again.
I think Global Community Day was such a great effort put on by the Episcopal School. I think that the students being engaged, consciously engaged in the global community is something that more schools need to focus on, and having such influential speakers come from, you know, different stories, different things that they've survived is amazing. And to see that firsthand, I think really instills in them the want and the need to actually do something later on in their life. I was on the panel discussion and I spoke about Syria. I just think the most important thing is for them to have compassion towards what's going on, and feel like they can do something, and it's not just for us to sit and watch and see what's going on in the world. Being American, we have so many privileges and so many things that other countries and people around the world don't get to experience. So I think it's good to be aware of that and to know that we can do something to make a change.